Admiral Hinzik Park stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the message on his screen. His gray hair and tired eyes told the story of 30 years in space. He read the Viraxian ultimatum again, even though he had memorized every word. "Give us 8 of your 12 star systems, or we will take them by force." The Viraxians were a race of tall reptilian beings who believed strength was everything. They controlled 200 star systems and commanded 50,000 warships. Humanity had only 12 systems and 300 visible ships. To the galaxy, the choice seemed obvious. Humanity would surrender or die. Park smiled. It was a small, knowing smile that his crew had learned to recognize over the years. "Send a message to Earth," he said. "Tell them it is time." Across the galaxy, Ambassador Ji-Wan Lee prepared for the meeting that would change everything. She was a woman of 45, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. For 20 years, she had served as Earth's voice in the Galactic Council. For 20 years, she had listened to other species treat humanity like children, who did not understand how the universe worked. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of species filled the seats, their forms ranging from small, floating crystals to massive gas clouds contained in force fields. At the center sat the 3 dominant powers: the Viraxians, with their red scales and constant aggression; the Kelthar, with their insect bodies and love of profit; the Farron, who existed as pure energy and rarely spoke. Ji-Wan walked to the speaking platform. The Viraxian war speaker towered over her, his scales gleaming under the lights. "Human," he hissed, "your time is up. Do you surrender your systems, or do we take them?" "Neither," Ji-Wan said calmly. "We request 30 days to consider your offer." The chamber erupted in noise. Species laughed, clicked, hummed, and buzzed. The Viraxian war speaker's eyes narrowed. 30 days to delay the inevitable? Very well. We grant you this time to accept your fate. Ji-Wan bowed slightly and left the chamber. Behind her, species began placing bets on how quickly humanity would surrender. None gave them more than 20 days. Far beyond the edges of known space, past the last human colony, past the detection range of any galactic sensors, something waited in the darkness. Captain Doyoung Kim floated in his small destroyer near the edge of what humans called the Kuiper Gate. He was young for a captain. Only 32, but he had trained his entire adult life for this moment. "All ships," he said into his communicator. "Stay sharp. The order will come soon." Round him, invisible to any outside observer, 300 more destroyers waited. They were part of the visible fleet, the ships that patrolled human space where everyone could see them. But Doyoung knew the truth. These ships were just the tip of an enormous spear, deep in the asteroid fields. Dr. Mirachoy checked her displays for the 1,000th time. She was 50 years old and had spent the last 25 years working on the greatest secret in human history. Around her, spread across 1 billion kilometers of space, lay the Foundry network. It did not look like much from the outside. Just asteroids, rocks, and ice floating in the void. But inside those asteroids, humanity had built shipyards on a scale the galaxy had never imagined. Automated factories worked day and night. Construction drones moved between rocks like schools of fish. And sleeping in the darkness, waiting for the command to wake, were 500,000 warships. Mireille had watched them grow from plans on her computer, 2 real ships that could crack planets. She knew every detail of their construction. The Titan-class dreadnoughts that massed as much as small moons, the Pantheon carriers that could deploy swarms of intelligent drones, the Olympus battlecruisers with shields strong enough to brush aside enemy fire, the Guardian destroyers that formed the backbone of the fleet, the Wraith frigates that could disappear from sensors completely. Each ship combined technology from dozens of alien species. Humanity had spent 200 years in the galaxy not conquering but learning. They studied Viraxian armor and made it stronger. They examined Kelthar shields and made them more efficient. They analyzed Farron energy weapons and made them deadlier. Every alien design was improved, refined, and combined with human engineering, and now finally, the galaxy would see what humanity had built in secret. Her communicator blinked. A message from Earth? A single word: activate. Mireille took a deep breath and entered the command codes. Across the Foundry network, 500,000 warships began to wake. Their reactors powered up one by one. Lights flickered on in empty corridors. Weapons systems ran diagnostics. Shield generators hummed to life. The energy release was massive. Even though the Foundry network was far from inhabited space, sensors across 100 light-years detected the sudden power surge. Confusion spread through alien monitoring stations. What was that? An exploding star? A spatial anomaly? Admiral Park received the confirmation on his bridge. All ships were awake. All ships were ready. He looked at his crew, men and women who had kept this secret for years. Some had been born into military families that had kept the secret for generations. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies. Make sure everyone in the galaxy hears this." When the channel opened, Park spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Admiral Hunsick Park of the United Earth Navy. For 200 years, you have known us as weak. We allowed you to believe this because we are not conquerors. We do not seek empire. We do not desire to rule others. But we are not prey. We are not victims. And we will not surrender to threats." He paused, letting his words spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. "The Varaxian hegemony will have their answer in 30 days. We suggest they use that time wisely." In the council chamber, alarms began to sound. Sensor reports flooded in from every direction. Species shouted in confusion and fear. The numbers made no sense. 500,000 new contacts. 500,000 warships that appeared from nowhere. The Varaxian war speaker stared at the reports, his scales turning pale. The Kelthar trade representatives collapsed in shock. Even the Farron energy beings flickered with surprise. Ambassador Ji-Wan Lee watched the chaos with quiet satisfaction. She had played her role perfectly. Now the galaxy would learn the truth. Humanity had been patient. Humanity had been careful. But humanity had never been weak. The 30-day countdown had begun. The galaxy held its breath for 29 days. Every species watched humanity's 12 star systems, waiting to see what would happen. Varaxian scouts flew close to human space, scanning for the source of that massive energy signature. They found nothing unusual. Just the same 300 patrol ships moving on regular routes. The same merchant vessels carrying cargo between colonies. The same defense stations orbiting human worlds. The scouts reported back to their commanders. It must have been a trick. Perhaps humans had detonated old weapons to create a false signal. Perhaps they had found some ancient alien technology and accidentally activated it. There was no fleet. There could not be a fleet. Building 500,000 warships in secret was impossible. On the Kelthar trading networks, species placed new bets. How would humanity surrender? Would they beg for mercy? Would they offer tribute? The odds heavily favored complete capitulation within hours of the deadline, Captain. Doyoung Kim sat in his destroyer and tried to stay calm. His orders were clear. Stay visible. Stay in position. Let the enemy think nothing had changed. But his hands shook slightly as he gripped the arms of his command chair. He had trained for combat his entire career, but he had never actually fought in a real battle. Soon, that would change. "Captain," his tactical officer said, "Varaxian fleet is gathering at the border. Looks like 75,000 ships." Doyoung nodded. The Varaxians were bringing everything. They wanted to make an example of humanity. They wanted to show the galaxy what happened to species who refused to obey. "Maintain position," he ordered. "Wait for Admiral Park's signal." Far away in the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Ji-Wan Lee prepared for her final performance. She dressed in a simple black suit, the formal uniform of Earth diplomats. She checked her reflection and smiled. Today, the galaxy would see humanity as it truly was. The chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. The Varaxian war speaker arrived with an honor guard, clearly expecting humanity's surrender. He had even prepared a speech about mercy and the wisdom of accepting one's place in the natural order. Gi-Wan walked to the speaking platform. The chamber fell silent. "The United Nations of Earth has considered the Varaxian ultimatum," she said. "We have examined it from every angle. We have weighed the costs and benefits. We have consulted with our people and our leaders. The war speaker leaned forward, anticipation clear in his reptilian eyes. And our answer is no, Giwan continued. We decline your generous offer. Furthermore, we demand the Vraxian hegemony immediately withdraw from the Kepler corridor. We demand you pay reparations to the Talarone species for 200 years of slavery. We demand you submit to inspections by neutral observers to ensure compliance with basic sentient rights. The chamber exploded in noise. The war speaker rose to his full height, his scales flushing deep crimson. You dare? He roared. You insignificant creatures dare to make demands? We will burn your worlds. We will scatter your ashes across the void. Kiwan's smile grew wider. You are welcome to try. At that moment, across human space, Admiral Park gave the order that would change everything. All ships, he broadcast. Jump to Typhon Expanse. Let them see what we have built. The Foundry network erupted with light. 500,000 ships activated their faster-than-light drives simultaneously. The energy release was so massive that it temporarily disrupted communications across 10 sectors. Ships began jumping, tearing holes in space-time, moving from their hidden positions to the pre-arranged meeting point. The Typhon Expanse was a region of empty space between human and Vraxian territory. It had been chosen as the battlefield by mutual agreement. The Vraxians wanted room to deploy their massive fleet. Humanity wanted the galaxy to witness what was about to happen. The Vracian fleet arrived first. 75,000 warships arranged, themselves in a battle formation that had crushed hundreds of opponents over the centuries. The War Master Kraxith commanded from his flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons. He was confident. His fleet outnumbered the human navy 250 to 1. This would be a quick victory. Then the human fleet arrived. The first wave came through in perfect formation. 10,000 Titan-class dreadnoughts materialized in a sphere around the Vraxian fleet. Each dreadnought massed as much as a small moon. Their hulls were black as void, covered in armor that had taken human engineers 50 years to perfect, before the Vraxians could react. The second wave arrived. 50,000 Pantheon carriers appeared, each one launching swarms of autonomous fighters. Within seconds, 2 million drone craft filled the space around the enemy fleet. The third wave brought 100,000 Olympus battlecruisers. They moved with impossible grace, their shields glowing with contained energy. The fourth wave added 200,000 Guardian destroyers. The fifth wave materialized 140,000 Wraith frigates that immediately vanished from sensors. Invisible yet deadly. Captain Doyoung Kim arrived with his destroyer squadron. He stared at the display showing the full human fleet deployed for battle. He had known the numbers, but seeing it in reality was overwhelming. The Vraxian fleet, which had seemed so massive moments ago, now looked tiny and vulnerable. War Master Kraxith stared at his sensors in disbelief. The numbers could not be real. 500,000 ships. It was impossible. No species could build such a fleet. No economy could support it. No shipyards could construct so many vessels, but the ships were there, real, solid. Their weapons powered up, their shields active, their formations perfect. Admiral Park's voice came over every communication channel in the Expanse. War Master Kraxith, you came here to destroy humanity. You believed we were weak. You believed wrong. I offer you one chance to withdraw. Take your fleet home. Tell your leaders that humanity is not prey. We will not be threatened. We will not be conquered. But we do not wish to kill you today. Krax's pride would not allow retreat. His entire culture was built on strength. To flee from battle would destroy his honor. He gave the order to attack. The Vraxian fleet fired first. Thousands of energy beams lanced through space, targeting the nearest human ships. The weapons had destroyed countless enemies over the centuries. They were powerful, deadly, efficient. They splashed harmlessly against human shields. Admiral Park sighed. He had hoped the Vraxians would choose wisdom over pride. All ships, he ordered. Return fire. Controlled volleys. Show them the difference. The human fleet fired. Railguns launched projectiles at 95% of light speed. Each round carried enough kinetic energy to crack a planet. They punched through Varaxian armor like paper through water. Plasma lances, refined from ancient Farron designs, melted enemy ships into molten metal. Torpedo spreads carrying singularity warheads collapsed entire formations into tiny points of crushing gravity. The battle lasted for hours. When it ended, 60,000 Varaxian ships were destroyed or disabled. 15,000 had fled in panic. Human casualties numbered 127 ships, most damaged by collisions with debris rather than enemy fire. Warmaster Craxith sat in his ruined flagship, waiting for death. Instead, he received a transmission from Admiral Park. "This war is over, Warmaster. Surrender. Your surviving crews will be treated with honor. We will return you to your homeworld. Continue fighting, and we will be forced to eliminate you completely. The choice is yours." Craxith looked at the shattered remains of his fleet. He thought of the pride of the Varaxian people, built over thousands of years of conquest. And he realized that pride meant nothing against overwhelming power. He surrendered. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every civilized world knew what had happened at the Typhon Expanse. Observer drones from the Galactic Council had transmitted everything. The images were clear and undeniable. Humanity possessed a fleet that dwarfed every other military force in known space. In the council chamber, Ambassador Giwan Li stood before hundreds of silent species. No one laughed now. No one made jokes about weak humans. The Kelthar trade representative had collapsed when the battle footage arrived, his insect body twitching in shock. The Farron energy beings, ancient and supposedly beyond surprise, glowed with unusual intensity as they processed what they had witnessed. "For 200 years, Giwan said quietly, humanity has been part of this galactic community. We learned your languages. We studied your cultures. We traded fairly and kept our promises. And every day we listened to you call us weak. We listened to you treat us like children. We allowed it because we hoped you would come to respect us for our character rather than our weapons." She paused, looking around the chamber. "We were wrong. This galaxy only respects power. So now you see our power. What you do with this knowledge will determine our future relationship." The Varaxian ambassador, a replacement for the disgraced war speaker, stood on shaking legs. "What are your demands, human? What tribute do you require?" Juan shook her head. "We do not want tribute. We want what we have always wanted. Fair treatment, equal voice, and an end to the exploitation that has poisoned this council for too long." Left the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Admiral Hunsick Park supervised the return of Raxian prisoners from his flagship. True to his word, every captured soldier was treated with dignity. The wounded received medical care from human doctors. The healthy were given food and quarters. When Warmaster Craxith was brought aboard, Park met him personally. "You fought well," Park told him. "Your tactics were sound. Your warriors were brave. In another time, against another enemy, you might have won." Craxith's scales had lost their bright color. He looked old and tired. "Why did you spare us?" "By the laws of war, you could have killed every ship. Because," Park said, "we are not Varaxian. We do not believe strength requires cruelty. We wanted to show you that humanity is powerful, not that we are monsters." The Warmaster was silent for a long moment. "My people will not accept this defeat easily. There will be those who demand revenge." "Then they will learn the same lesson you did," Park replied. "But I hope it does not come to that. I hope your people choose wisdom instead." Captain Doyoung Kim returned to human space a hero. His squadron had performed perfectly during the battle, destroying 17 enemy vessels without taking a single casualty. News crews wanted interviews. Politicians wanted to shake his hand. But Doyoung felt strangely empty. He had expected to feel pride or excitement after his first real battle. Instead, he felt sadness. He had watched thousands of Varaxian soldiers die. Yes, they had attacked first. Yes, they would have killed every human if given the chance. But they were still living beings with families and dreams. His friend Min-jae found him standing alone on the observation deck. Staring at the stars? You did well out there, Min-jae said. I killed people, Do-young replied. Lots of people. You protected Earth. You protected our colonies. What would have happened if we had not fought back? Do-young knew the answer. The Varaxians would have taken 8 human worlds and enslaved or killed everyone living there. But knowing that did not make it easier. I just thought, he said quietly, that victory would feel different. Dr. Myray Choi became the most famous scientist in the galaxy overnight. Everyone wanted to know how humanity had built such a fleet in secret. How they had combined technologies from dozens of species. How they had improved on designs that were thousands of years old. She gave a single interview to a pan-galactic news network. The reporter was a floating crystal named Lisk, who pulsed with different colors as it spoke. Dr. Choi, the galaxy wants to know, how did you do it? How did a species as young as humanity surpass civilizations that have existed for millions of years? Murray smiled. We did not surpass them. We learned from them. Every species in this galaxy has strengths. The Varaxians understand armor and structural integrity. The Kelthar are masters of shield technology. The Farron, no energy weapons better than anyone. We simply took the best ideas from everyone and combined them. But no one has ever done that before, Lisk pulsed. Why? Because Myray said, most species in this galaxy are too proud to learn from others. They see cooperation as weakness. They would rather fail with their own technology than succeed with borrowed ideas. Humans are different. We have no shame in learning. We have no pride that prevents us from improving. The interview was watched by billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Some species felt insulted by Moray's words, but many younger races heard her message and thought about their own societies. Meanwhile, the Tolaran species finally had hope for freedom. The Talarans were crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns. The Varaxians had enslaved them 50 years ago, using them as living computers to run their empire's administrative systems. Countless Talarans had died from overwork and abuse. When news of the Battle of Typhon Expanse reached the slave worlds, the Talarans began to dream of liberation. Secret messages were sent to Earth begging for help. Do-young Kim, now promoted to Commodore, received command of the Liberation Fleet. 10,000 ships would jump to Varaxian slave worlds simultaneously. The orders were clear. Free the Talarans without harming the civilian Varaxian population. The operation took 6 hours. Varaxian military forces fled at the first sight of human warships. The planetary governors surrendered without firing a shot. By the end of the day, 2 million Talarans were free. Do-young stood on the surface of Talar Prime, the Talaran homeworld, and watched the former slaves emerge from underground facilities. They shimmered in the sunlight, their crystalline bodies reflecting rainbows of color. An elder approached him, flashing a complex light pattern that his translator converted to speech. Why did you help us? You owe us nothing. Do-young thought about his conversation with Min-jae on the observation deck, about the weight of killing and the meaning of victory, because he said, that is what humanity does. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. Back in space, the galactic power structure was shifting rapidly. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries now scrambled to establish diplomatic relations. Trade proposals flooded Earth's communication networks. Requests for military alliances arrived daily. Everyone wanted to be friends with the species that commanded 500,000 warships. The Kelthar Consortium, always focused on profit, sent a delegation to Earth. They offered economic partnerships, technology sharing, and favorable trade agreements. Ambassador Ji-won Lee listened to their proposals for 3 days before responding. We will trade with the Kelthar, she said. But under new rules, no more exploitative contracts. No more trapping poorer species in debt. No more buying resources from planets for a fraction of their value. Fair trade or no trade, the Kelthar delegates protested. Such restrictions would destroy their business model. Ji-won's response was simple, and find a new business model. You have seen what happens to those who oppose humanity. Do you really want to test us? The Kelthar agreed to the new terms, the Farron Unity. Mysterious and Ancient requested a private meeting with human leadership. Admiral Park and Ambassador Lee traveled to the Farron home system, a place few outsiders had ever visited. The Farron existed as beings of pure energy, contained within massive crystalline structures. Their spokesperson appeared as a shifting form of light and shadow. "We have watched humanity since you first reached the stars," the Farron said. "We have seen your curiosity, your adaptability, your capacity for both great violence and great compassion. You remind us of ourselves millions of years ago. Is that a good thing?" Park asked. "We do not know," the Farron admitted. "We became powerful and believed power made us wise. We conquered, we ruled, we shaped the galaxy to our will. And in doing so, we lost something essential. We forgot how to grow, how to change, how to be anything except what we already were." "Why are you telling us this?" Giwan asked. "Gabu stand at a crossroads," the Farron replied. "You have revealed your strength. Now you must choose what to do with it. Will you become conquerors? Will you force your will upon others? Or will you find a different path?" Park and Giwan looked at each other. They both knew the answer. Humanity had not built 500,000 warships to rule the galaxy. They had built them to ensure no one could rule humanity. But the Farron's warning stayed with them. Power changed those who held it. The real test was not whether humanity could defeat its enemies. The test was whether humanity could remain human after becoming the strongest force in the known galaxy. That test was only beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Typhon Expanse, the galaxy had not yet adjusted to the new reality. Humanity was no longer the weak species to be ignored or exploited. Every major decision in the Galactic Council now waited for Earth's opinion. Trade routes shifted to favor human interests. Defense pacts were rewritten to include human protection. But not everyone welcomed the change. In a hidden station on the edge of explored space, representatives from 3 species met in secret. The Draken Empire sent General Vectir, a massive reptilian warrior from a species that rivaled the Vraxians in military tradition. The Hive Collective sent Overseer 16, an insectoid being who commanded billions of worker drones. And from the remnants of the Vraxian military came Commander Thesic, who had lost his entire family in the Battle of Typhon Expanse. "Humanity must be stopped," Vector growled. "Today they demand fair trade. Tomorrow they will demand submission. This is how empires begin. This is how freedom ends." Overseer 16 clicked its mandibles in agreement. "The Hive has analyzed all available data. Humanity possesses 500,000 known warships, but intelligence suggests they are building more. Within 5 years, they could have 1 million ships. Within 10 years, 2 million. The mathematical progression is clear. Eventually, they will have enough power to enforce their will on every species in the galaxy." Commander Thesic's voice was bitter with hatred. "They killed 60,000 of our warriors and call it mercy. They freed our slaves and call it justice. They treat us like criminals for following the natural order of the strong ruling the weak. I say we strike before they become even stronger." The 3 conspirators agreed to form the Shadow Pact. Their goal was simple: destroy humanity before it was too late. They would coordinate attacks, share intelligence, and pool resources. Other species joined them over the following weeks. The Corvain Federation, angry that humans had taken over their trading routes. The Nexer Union, resentful that humanity had rejected their alliance proposal. Even some smaller species who feared any change to the galactic order. Within 3 months, Shadow Pact commanded 150,000 warships from 30 different species. It was the largest coalition fleet ever assembled for a single purpose. Admiral Yunzik Park sensed trouble before it arrived. He had spent 30 years in military service and developed an instinct for danger. The galaxy was too quiet. Too many species had stopped communicating with human diplomats. Too many trade routes reported unusual military movements. He called a meeting with Earth's top military commanders. Captain Nari Song attended, now promoted to Admiral of the Home Guard. She was a stern woman of 50, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had spent her entire career preparing Earth's orbital defenses for the day when enemies would come to humanity's homeworld. "Something is coming," Park told the assembled officers. "I do not know what or when, but I feel it in my bones. We need to increase patrols. We need to activate reserve fleets. And we need to prepare for the possibility of an attack on Earth itself." Some of the younger officers thought Park was being paranoid. After all, humanity had just won the greatest military victory in galactic history. Who would dare attack now? Commodore Do-young Kim understood. He had seen enough combat to know that victory often bred resentment. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Double all patrol routes," Park ordered. "Activate the reserve fleets at the Foundry Network. And move an additional 50,000 ships to the Sol system. If enemies come to Earth, I want them to face a wall of steel they cannot break." The orders were implemented immediately. But they were almost too late. The Shadow Pact had obtained Farron wormhole technology through theft and bribery. The technology allowed ships to open portals directly to any point in space, bypassing normal travel time. It was supposed to be impossible for younger species to use. But the conspiracy had found Farron. Criminals willing to share the secrets for profit. Their plan was elegant in its simplicity. Open wormholes throughout the Sol system and flood through with overwhelming numbers. Destroy Earth's orbital facilities. Kill as many humans as possible. Break humanity's spirit before their superior technology could turn the tide. The attack came on a Tuesday morning. Standard Time. Do-young Kim was visiting his family in Seoul when alarms began blaring across the city. He ran to the nearest military station and pulled up the tactical display. 50 wormholes had opened throughout the solar system. Enemy ships poured through like water from broken dams. The Shadow Pact had committed everything to this single attack. 150,000 warships materialized around Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt, and Jupiter's moons. Admiral Narration was in her command center on Aegis Prime, the massive defense station that orbited Earth at a distance of 10,000 kilometers. She watched the enemy fleet arrive and felt her heart race with adrenaline. "All stations, battle protocols," she ordered. "Activate automated defenses. Launch all drone squadrons. Send distress signals to all human fleets. We hold this line." The hidden defense network that Admiral Park had ordered into place revealed itself. Orbital fortresses that had masqueraded as commercial stations dropped their disguises and powered up weapons. Automated defense platforms emerged from asteroids where they had been concealed for decades. 50,000 ships of the Home Guard, permanently stationed in the Sol system, moved to intercept the invaders. The Battle of Sol began. It was different from the Battle of Typhon Expanse. That had been a military engagement between organized fleets. This was chaos. Ships fought in close quarters around Earth's orbit. Debris from destroyed vessels threatened the planet below. Evacuation sirens wailed across every human settlement as people fled to underground shelters. Do-young Kim made it to his destroyer and launched within. His squadron joined the defense of the lunar colonies, where 10,000 enemy ships were trying to break through. The fighting was brutal. His shields took hit after hit. His weapons fired until they overheated. Around him, human ships fought with desperate determination. On the surface of Mars, Dr. Mireille Choi watched the battle through observation windows. She had been inspecting a new research facility when the attack began. Now she was trapped on a world under siege. Energy beams crisscrossed the sky above the colony. Explosions lit up the dark like terrible fireworks. "Will we survive this?" asked a young technician standing beside her, Mireille. Thought about the thousands of scientists and engineers who had built humanity's fleet. She thought about all the technology they had developed, all the weapons they had perfected, and she thought about the fact that this battle had been planned for by Admiral Park. "Yes," she said, "we will survive." On the second day of battle, the Shadow Pact realized they had made a terrible mistake. The 50,000 Home Guard ships were not Earth's only defense. Hidden among the asteroids were an additional 50,000 automated defense drones, each one controlled by advanced AI, secret weapons stations. Built into Earth's moon began firing missiles. that could track their targets across millions of kilometers, and Earth itself was protected by a planetary shield generator that had taken 50 years to build. The shield covered the entire planet, strong enough to withstand sustained bombardment from 1,000 ships. On the third day, the relief fleet arrived. Commodore Doyoung Kim heard Admiral Park's voice over the communication network. "All human forces, this is Admiral Park. We are entering the system. Hold your positions. Help is here." 200,000 human warships jumped into the Sol system from quantum corridors, arriving behind the enemy fleet. The Shadow Pact was trapped between Earth's defenses and the relief force. There was no escape. General Vector watched from his command ship as the trap closed. His warriors fought bravely, but uselessly. Human technology was simply too advanced. Human shields were too strong. Human weapons were too powerful. For every human ship destroyed, the Shadow Pact lost 10. "Should we retreat?" his second-in-command asked. Vecker shook his head. "There is nowhere to retreat to. We gambled everything on this attack. We have lost." Some Shadow Pact ships tried to surrender. Some tried to flee through the wormholes they had opened. Some fought to the last. When the battle finally ended on the fourth day, 120,000 enemy ships had been destroyed. 20,000 had surrendered. 10,000 had escaped. Human casualties were heavier than at Typhoon Expanse. 3,000 ships destroyed. 15,000 people dead. Damage to Mars colonies. Debris in Earth orbit that would take years to clean up. But Earth still stood. Humanity still lived, and the galaxy had learned another lesson. You could not kill humanity with surprise. You could not kill them with numbers. You could only kill them if they chose to let you. They would never make that choice. Admiral Park stood on Aegis Prime and looked down at Earth, his homeworld, the cradle of his species. "Still safe. Still free? Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them it is time we had a serious conversation about the future." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Every species sent representatives. Every world wanted to hear what humanity would demand after defending against the largest coordinated attack in galactic history. Armed guards from a dozen species stood along the walls, not to protect the Council, but to protect themselves from each other. Trust had broken down completely. Ambassador Juan Li entered the chamber alone. She wore the same simple black suit she had worn 6 months ago when she first revealed humanity's true strength. But her face was harder now. Her eyes were colder. She had spent the last week walking through damaged Mars colonies, attending funerals for 3,000 human soldiers, and listening to the cries of children who had watched the battle from underground shelters. "For 200 years, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "Humanity has asked for one thing from this council: fairness. We did not ask for special treatment. We did not ask for power. We asked to be treated as equals." She paused, looking around at the assembled species. "We were denied. Some of you treated us as children. Some treated us as prey. And some of you tried to exterminate us completely. The representatives from species that had joined the Shadow Pact tried to look invisible. Some had claimed they were forced to participate. Some had blamed rogue military commanders. None of their excuses mattered now. You saw our strength and it terrified you," Giwan continued. "Instead of accepting that a new power had emerged, you conspired to destroy us. You attacked our homeworld. You killed our people. And now you sit here wondering what punishment we will inflict." The chamber was so quiet that the sound of breathing seemed loud. "We could destroy you," Guan said simply. "We have the ships. We have the weapons. We could reduce your homeworlds to ash and scatter your people across the void. Many humans want exactly that. They want revenge for the attack on Earth." She'll let the words hang in the air for a long moment. "But humanity is better than that. We did not become powerful to become tyrants. We became powerful to ensure that no one could force their will upon us. And now that we have that power, we will use it to create the galaxy we wish we had found 200 years ago." Guan pulled up a holographic display that every being in the chamber could see. This is the Galactic Compact, a new agreement that will govern how civilized species interact. It has 3 fundamental laws. First, slavery is abolished throughout all member territories. Any species that practices slavery will face immediate intervention. Second, economic exploitation is regulated. Trade must be fair. Contracts must be clear. No species may be trapped in debt or forced into disadvantageous agreements. Third, collective defense. All member species contribute to mutual protection against external threats. The chamber erupted in arguments. The Kelthar protested that fair trade would destroy their economy. The Draken complained that interference in internal affairs violated sovereignty. The Corvain demanded to know who would enforce these laws. Giwan waited for the noise to die down. Humanity will enforce them, she said quietly. In our sphere of influence, which now includes any species that wishes to trade with us, seek our protection, or benefit from our technology. You have a choice. Join the compact and accept these rules, or remain with the old council in its old ways. But know this, we will not trade with slavers. We will not protect exploiters. And we will not forget those who tried to exterminate us. Over the following months, the galaxy transformed. 60 species joined the Galactic Compact in the first week. The Taloran species, freed from slavery, became some of humanity's strongest supporters. The Farron Unity joined, surprising everyone. Even some Vraxians, particularly younger ones who had grown disgusted with their empire's cruelty, petitioned to join. The Kelthar consortium resisted at first. But their economy collapsed when human ships stopped protecting their trade routes from pirates. Within 2 months, they agreed to the new rules. Their profits actually increased. When they started conducting legitimate business instead of exploitative schemes, the Draken Empire refused to join. General Vectir, tried in absentia for his role in the attack on Earth, became a symbol of the old ways. The Draken people, proud and warlike, would rather die than submit to human rules. Commodore Doyoung Kim was sent to the Draken border with a fleet of 20,000 ships. His orders were clear. Prevent Draken raids on compact members, but do not invade their territory. Humanity would defend its allies, but it would not conquer its enemies. For 6 months, Draken warships tested the boundary. Each time, they encountered human ships that simply refused to move. No shots were fired. No threats were made. The humans just stayed in position, their shields active, or weapons ready but not aimed. Finally, a young Draken captain named Rixer made contact with Doyoung's flagship. "Why do you not attack?" Rixer asked. "We are your enemies. We tried to destroy your world. Yet you only defend. You do not strike back." Doyoung thought carefully before answering. "Because we are not like you. We do not believe that strength requires cruelty. We do not need to dominate others to prove our worth. We simply want to live in peace and ensure others can do the same." "That is weakness," Rixer said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No," Doyoung replied. "It is strength. Real strength. The kind that does not need to prove itself through violence." The conversation was recorded and spread throughout the Draken Empire. Young Drakens began to question their society's values. Within a year, civil war erupted between traditionalists who clung to the old ways and reformers who wanted to join the Galactic Compact. Humanity stayed out of the conflict, but provided humanitarian aid to refugees from both sides. Dr. Murray Choi focused on rebuilding after the Battle of Sol. The damage to Mars colonies would take years to repair fully. But she also started a new project, the Foundation Institute. It would be a place where scientists from all species could work together, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies. The Institute's charter was simple. Technology developed there would be shared with all compact members. No species would have exclusive access. No patents would be filed. The goal was to raise the technological level of the entire galaxy. Some humans protested. Why share their advantages? Why give other species the tools to potentially challenge humanity? Murray's answer was broadcast across human space. "We are strong enough that we do not need to fear others becoming strong. In fact, the galaxy is safer when all civilized species have the ability to defend themselves. What we should fear is remaining isolated, remaining superior, and gradually becoming what we fought against. Admiral Hensick. Park retired from active duty 1 year after the Battle of Seoul. He had served for 35 years and felt he had earned rest. But before leaving, he established the Naval Academy's new curriculum. Future human officers would not just learn tactics and strategy. They would study the histories and cultures of alien species. They would learn diplomacy alongside combat. They would be taught that the purpose of military power was not to dominate but to protect. On his last day in uniform, Park stood before a class of new cadets and gave them advice that would be remembered for generations. "We built 500,000 warships," he said, "and we will build more. But never forget why we built them. Not because we love war, but because we love peace. Not because we want to rule, but because we refuse to be ruled. The moment we forget that distinction, we become the very thing we fought against." Captain Narration took over as head of Earth's defense network. She spent her days improving the systems that had saved humanity during the Shadow Pact attack. But she also spent time with the families of the 3,000 people who had died. She attended memorials. She listened to their stories. She made sure they knew their loved ones had not died in vain. One evening, she received an unexpected visitor. Commander Thesic, the Varaxian officer who had helped plan the attack on Earth, had been captured and was awaiting trial. He asked to speak with her. "Why?" Nari asked. "What could you possibly have to say to me?" Those 6 scales were pale, his eyes tired. "I want you to understand why we did it. I lost my family at Typhon Expanse. My mate, my children. All dead because we were too proud to surrender to your Admiral Park. So you tried to kill my people in revenge," Nari said coldly. "Yes," Thesic admitted. "And I was wrong. I watched the battle from my command ship. I saw your people fight to defend their home. I saw them show mercy to enemies who showed them none. And I realized that my family would be ashamed of what I became." Nari was silent for a long moment. "What do you want from me? Forgiveness?" "No," Thesic said. "I will be executed for my crimes, as I should be. I want you to know that not all Varaxians are like me. Some of us are learning from humanity. Some of us want to be better. Please do not judge all my people by my actions." The trial took place 3 months later. Thesic confessed to everything. He provided details about the Shadow Pact's planning. He gave names of conspirators who had escaped, and he asked for no mercy. The human court sentenced him to death. But Ji-Wan Lee, now Earth's Prime Minister, commuted the sentence to life in prison. When asked why, she said simply, "Because we are human. Because we believe in redemption. And because showing mercy to those who do not deserve it is how we prove we are better than our enemies."